evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Alisha Brashe from Cosmic Gateway, and I am joined by an incredible soul sister. Most of you may know her. Sorry, if you don't know her, I've already put all the links in the description box. So please welcome Alexis of Ascension Diaries. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat. My
Well,
morning, your evening.
yes, good day to you over there on the 4th and back here on the 3rd. Things are still going all right. And I'm glad to do this live stream tonight and this morning to kind of collect our communities together again, give them an opportunity to get in on the fresher downloads perhaps that we've been getting, especially even just the last week, I'll be honest. And it's been
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit. I'm feeling a lot. And the next month, this month of June, we just entered, and the next month, I'm feeling there is some mental, spiritual prep, perhaps, that's kind of going to be disseminating out of the spokespeople who have channels like ourselves and so on, just to kind of keep preparing people, especially around the sun and
Mm.
children in general. So those were the big themes. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the live chat. And I encourage my audience to come and ask some questions of us too, because I like the chance that we actually get to be together. And
Yeah,
I'm
we
excited.
don't do it as often as we should. I've always enjoyed my chats with you, whether it's on or off camera. So thank you for encouraging your community over here. And um, yeah, I think we're going to dive into some. We were just talking off air, and last night I had a moment of like, I don't even know what we're talking about. But I think the beautiful thing collaborating with you is I didn't feel nervous because I was like, it'll flow, it'll be fine. So um, I remember I was actually recalling because this has been sort of in the making for a couple of months,
Yeah.
trying to get a time to sit down and chat. So here we are. But originally, and I want to bring this up, originally I was prompted to connect with you because of dreams and downloads around the sun.
Okay.
And it was like, chat with Alexa, see what, if she's getting similar information and I guess sort of understand it because I always like your perspective. And one of the dreams was I had a dream that I was told to do a roundtable, which I never did. I shouldn't listen to my intuition more, but the dream was to prepare a chat. So here we are. Yeah, we're doing it. Um, to talk about that everyone needs to prepare for the sun activity and potential like solar flash event. But I think that was kind of earlier in the year, and then here we are. So sometimes what we're asked to do, and when we finally get around to doing it, kind of takes a little time to drop into this reality, right? So, but yeah, I guess my opening question to you is, can you make some comments on what the sun has been doing just this half of this year? Because I know my perspective is well, when I think about it, I don't know if I was tracking it as closely around this time during the solar cycle last one. But
Right.
what are your thoughts on what the sun is doing? I mean, we've had a lot of X class. It's been crazy, but I always love it. So
I know. And that's why I think titling this The Sun, Children of the Sun was also an excellent one because we want to speak to the children of the sun and, of course, now the parents and guardians of more children of the sun as well and discuss the new environment that we're living in and that I've been observing and you've been observing and we've been sharing the charts and watching it progressively change
mm,
and mutate really before our eyes and ourselves mutate. And we've been watching the mutation for like 5 years. I have been, at least, for sure. And I've just been like, okay, the solar scientists are saying that the biggest peak of information is going to be expelling out of the sun, peaking on around 2025.
mm,
But as we in at least the northern hemisphere, we are about to move into our summer solstice time. Obviously, you're about to move into your most calming, protected side from the sun and what it's doing. But the level of even just X-ray radiation, even though the electromagnetic spectrum is so broad, seems like X-ray radiation is a big one that they publicly talk about the shifts of. And we've been in X-ray radiation levels that I don't recall seeing before, and just heightened X-ray radiation. We're just getting more radiation on a daily basis. And then, like you said, the X-class flares. And as a psychic as well, who hears, clairaudiently, claircognizantly, I'm not really sure. It's in between those two kind of. I just kind of hear, and it's like coming into my mind, like, this is nothing. Like, and they started showing me the X-Men movies again, and then an X2 came when I was watching movie X2, and it was like, you are all about to mutate into your next levels. Your DNA is going to be activating. You really have, if you think about even the sun as another chakra of our own, that chakra is activating, and the chakras above it are constantly activating more and more. And it seems like there's an ease and a more logic to the electromagnetic connections and so on, and the space weather. It is starting to make more sense. Like, even just watching it in the past, there would be weird I don't know, issues and blasts and so on that I'd read, and I wouldn't know what was going on. I would blame human technology on Earth, and which apparently is booting back up again. I haven't looked into the media about that, because that's more of the mainstream side. Whenever mainstream's talking about these things, or the sun, I just kind of am like, ugh, because usually they even pick days and events that are less powerful than the ones I'm waiting for, and those ones tend to just get like shoved under the rug while everyone's texting me that they're like melting. And so it's been tricky, because people in our community are also suffering through these things, and looking for resources so they can self-regulate and keep being the healers while they are taking care of the whole family, who don't even know what we're talking about. Like, oh yeah, the solar radiation levels are just overall higher today. Like, okay, what do you mean? There's more sunshine? Well, sort of, yes. And how we're getting cooked in our little bubble of protection is also changing. So it's good to talk about these things. I talk about them every single day on my blog, and constantly new people are waking up with every blast and messaging me like, I'm a Lyran starseed and I'm awakening, and I came from the sun. I was there last night, and all of these things. I get all these messages and dreams and so on. So I just want to say that I'm here for the people who are experiencing these things continuously, the best I can, while we're also experiencing them. I've just been getting messages that the exposure of sun we're going to be getting in June and July, and what's going to be going on, just seems to be it's going to be different and intense in a new way. But everybody made it through 2020 pretty good so far. And that prophesized like trauma and drama that was all looming ahead of us in this community, like in 2016 or 15, like, they keep telling us something's going to happen. What's the next step? Like, what are we actually doing from this? And I think all of that had to do with preparing us physically to handle the radiation of the sun potentially, and the cosmic radiation around us. So I like talking about it with you, because obviously you understand what I mean. And you get similar messages. Especially, I love talking to you about your astral space, because you see so many wonderful things in your dreams sometimes, and it's so helpful, because it is ahead of time most of the time. You get to see it a few days, sometimes a year, sometimes like 10 years ahead. It's like as much time as you need to like actually anchor in this truth into this layer of it. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Exactly. I want to jump there. I actually have a billion questions now. I want to jump back to what you said, because when you said about like, feeling into the forecast for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
I felt that in my stomach when you said it. It kind of went,
I'm not trying to worry you.
No, it wasn't a panic. It was, I actually can't translate that, but I felt it in my stomach, in my solar plexus, which I always correlate to the sun.
Right.
And yeah. So maybe that was like a little bit of an indication for me, because I know that in the last few days, me and where I've read on other people's blogs and stuff like that, that digestive issues, especially, and like feeling, I was telling you, I feel quite nauseated this morning. and that, I guess that's one of the symptoms that can occur, not necessarily limited
From
to, right?
radiation, for sure. For getting radiated, your stomach's like, oh, like it's one of the first things to tell you, which is always nice, but it's kind of freaky. Like, oh yeah, well, you can't escape this radiation unless you go deep underground, potentially. Like some of the wavelengths of light just pierce right through. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know as much about that as I wish I did, to be honest.
Yeah. So how, I mean, talking about like how we're I can't remember the word you said, but we're like transforming into
Mm-hmm.
a new type of human through this
Mutation.
mutating. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what sort of mutations have you experienced within your own like?
Well, I
Yeah.
am noticing new powers are turning on, like new
Mm,
abilities, but it's abilities. Some of them are quirky and like
mm.
unexpected. I don't know if
I like the
that's
quirky.
resonating with you, but oh, shoot, I something the other day where I literally laughed by myself about something and was like, if I tell people this is my new power, they're not gonna take me seriously. But there is some cute, quirky as well, additional abilities that are turning on for me in my life. And I'm watching it happen to my friends as well. And it's strange things. And I think they're building up to more things, but maybe precursors to something. But I wish I had a good example. I'll try to think of one. But I mean, of course, everyone wants to just begin taking off and flying, like being able to untether or somehow use their Earth Star chakra. I think it's as one of the
Okay.
ideas is that you can like somehow repel off your Earth Star chakra or something, and that's how
Mm.
you float or something and becoming detached. I've heard a few ways, but more
I
so
gotta
than
say this, Alexis. Before we got on, I do a process where I sort of like, clear my energy, and I like connect into you, and you know open the space basically for this
right.
live. And when I tapped into you, what I saw was you like floating, almost like levitating, flying, and I was like, that's cool. Maybe that's some, yeah, maybe
It's
that's
right
something.
there. It's oh, I mean, truly, I mean, watching those films, I don't know if you've seen them, the X-Men movies, but the
No.
the abilities that some of these mutants have are truly very creative and unique, but there is some logic there in what they did and how they mutated. But just to straight up fly and have those abilities over basically the group consciousness or the consciousness of the hologram in a way where you can just logically begin flying, I feel like we're going to be able to embody that level of that much of the hologram inside of us so we can
Mm.
enjoy creating it instead of having it happen to us.
Hmm.
And I think that is with the solar plexus, and that is what we're doing to sort of activate that I am presence or that divine will of becoming
Mm.
the avatar where we can mold the elements and we can fly. And I feel like I'd have to start telling people this more and now, which is bizarre because no one around me I've ever seen flying, but it I'm not sure. At least in the astral plane when we're sleeping,
Well,
it's going to keep happening and happening more. So that's exciting, but
yeah.
I don't even
Hmm.
have many dreams of flying, I'll be honest. More so I remember I've had lots of different dreams where I've popped into other vibrations and everyone can't see me all of a sudden, or I
Mm.
can
Yeah.
shape shift is another good one.
Mm.
And they're metaphorical too, I think, especially in the astral plane.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about, I don't know, us and encouraging the pinpointing of those mutations and those small
Mm.
power shifts and like ability shifts, because eventually, maybe this lifetime, even with how things are going to change,
We're
we
gonna
might
try to get used to,
flying or riding dragons around. Like I've seen it. I know the children are dreaming about doing that kind of work already. So I've talked to them. Dragon
Yeah.
riders, like they're out there. I mean, I'm looking to make content for them now too. After the car accident I had a month ago now, I was just like, oh, I got that extra inspiration. Like, okay, Alexis, like you're still here. So what are you going to do? And I was like, I got to make more stuff for these kids because these kids need us. They
Yeah.
need way more context that they can comprehend. Most of our shows are just adults talking to each other. And I really feel like that's going to change very soon, where we're going to be
Mm.
talking to our kids, even on our channels and so on, because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
going to be hearing things we're not hearing, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So
can agree more.
gotta keep the channel open, like, hey kids, like, what's the news today? Like, good grand rising, tell me what you dreamt about, please. Like, are we doing okay? How is it looking up there? Like, I feel like that's way more. I mean, I think the parents know, especially, are like, oh yeah, we do that already, like, this is old news. But I don't have children living here. I just ask my animals how they're doing, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they struggle through it too, but it's a different layer, of course. They aren't giving me the messages about
Yeah.
the sun quite yet, but they want me out in the sun a ton. They want me soaking up the radiation, which is, last year I didn't feel like that was a good idea, and now this year it's like, soak it in,
It's
like, this is the good stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm happy to. You too?
interesting you brought that up because, yeah, I can honestly say I'm not one that kind of goes and soaks up the sun as much as I would like to, you know.
Okay.
Um, but this year I can't get enough. I mean, we're just gone into winter now, so I mean it's sunny now. But any time the sun's out, I'm literally sitting on my front porch and just going, "Give it to me, give it to me."
Right?
Yeah.
That's such a good sign. It's
Mm.
I'm glad, even, because we're bracing literally this whole planet, you and I, on other sides. And just to get the same experience, even, it's
Mm.
so relieving to
Mhm.
know, because we are separated by like a whole different programming and all of this and the ocean and everything. So it's so nice to be like, oh, your sunlight is safe too. Good. Like, thank God. Like, I'm trying to make sure everyone's not getting fried. I'm checking on everyone all the time. I mean, Italy today, it's just like checking on the
Oh,
Italians, like, hey, hope you guys are okay. Like, I'm seeing a lot of crazy readings today. So protective. I feel very protective. And
I was going to say you're like this sort of grand sort of mother figure, even though I know that you don't have physical children with you right now, but you are
I've
that figure to
adopted
so many.
everyone in our
Yeah.
community. I'm like, you might be older than me, but you're mine now, and I'm gonna take care of you. I can't help it anymore. I used to be like embarrassed of that feeling, like, oh, they're gonna think I'm weird, and now I'm like, it's okay.
No.
You can just come. It's fine. Just let's stick together. It's very sunny out. Like, uh-oh,
Mm.
things are getting a little weird. I
Mm.
don't know.
Yeah. All right, just a side note, because this is an observation I've had, and now I'm rattling through my mind of the list of questions of like, oh, ask Alexis. Um,
Okay.
the Russian graphs
Yep.
of Schumann resonance. Do you feel like this is my intuitive hit, but and I want to know your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Do you feel like it was censored for a couple of years and now it's accurate again?
Yeah, it was bad, especially when I thought it was going to get fun during, what do we even call that? The global shift, I guess. The global shift. The prophetics were like, the global shift is coming, and then it happened, and it looked nothing like they really said. But they'd also the right things.
Mm.
Metaphorically, it all fit, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get to see maybe on the background what's going on. And yeah, it was a ton of censorship during 2020 and 2021, even more so. I wasn't even having any fun because they would just cut it
Yes.
right out, turn it off. And I thought that was going to be the way it was going to go. And I thought we were going to lose this tool and this layer of
Mm.
fun. For a minute there, I was worried. And then, of course, basically the war, where that country became, again, very famous. And I was like, ooh, we may really lose it this time. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I didn't even think of that, but you're right. Yeah.
Right? I'm like
Mm.
talking about Russian data, and everyone's like, ah. So I felt kind of bad. But again, the panic it lasts only maybe a week, and then there's a new panic.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I'm glad it's working better now, though. I believe it is working better, and it's working more in unison with the solar activity too. Before, I was noticing, I feel almost there was an effort to disguise the, I don't know, the connection between solar weather reports that are, there's jillions of YouTube channels of people, faceless people reporting solar weather, and these electromagnetic charts that are measuring the activity on our Earth as well, and how they basically should interlock pretty seamlessly. And that was the study. And then it was showing me that that wasn't happening, and I was starting to get confused, and was showing more evidence of, again, cosmic radiation that is not being talked about. Just the sun is being talked about, but the radiation even coming off of our planets as they get close, or even close to the sun. Like a friend of mine's now doing the astrology. He knows when the sun is going to even go because of the way that the planets are adjusting. And it's just easy. It's like, it's all starting to make sense. It's all starting to come together. It should just a system of energy transfer. It shouldn't be too complicated to even know. And Jace, being the engineer, the space engineer, got some of that information a little bit in his education, but in my psychology education, I got nothing. But it has everything to do with our psychology. And it was a joke. I was so mad, I was so mad. Like, why are you telling me anything without telling me this? Like, this is ridiculous. So it's good. But these charts should keep working for us. I think we are beyond that. I think we've maybe moved over that hump, which I'm hoping. And the hump of our censorship too.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big one. And I saw your post last night. Because it's ridiculous.
It's been getting bad. Yeah. It's been bad.
I mean, I do try and share and like encourage everyone to go over and onto Alexis's Ascension Diaries Facebook page. And also, if you can, like, comment, because that helps boot, and try
on anyone that you're following, give as much interaction as you can on their content, because, like you said, the true guardians, like people who are really wake up, do this 24/7, are being still pushed down. And then we're seeing these false idols be propped up, as well as, I'm pretty sure AI or copies are like, they're making copies and copycatting. And a lot of people are getting scammed lately as well. So a little bit of turmoil as usual on the online realm of our duty here. But when we're not online, we're still sitting in the sun, listening to what's really going on, and texting each other and calling each other and being like, are you guys good? What did you see? Why are you talking about this? I'm having downloads about this. Whoa. So we're still fine. Everything's going fine. I'm surprised actually how smoothly it's been going for us since we've started doing this work online. Both of us, we've still like stuck it out, which I'm glad for. That's what they told me would happen. It was like, don't pay attention, like just stick it out on these platforms, like no matter how crazy it looks. And I've just been like, okay, but
I got a similar hit. Just keep doing it. Like, people find it, and like I've heard so many of my close friends say to me, I never get your posts. I have to go into your page and look. And I'm like, but I mean, I don't. I just kind of
whenever I see one, I'm just like, yes, thank God. Like one of them got through.
Yeah, right.
It used a paranoia. Like, I do all this work and I'm just guided to constantly post, constant. It's embarrassing for myself sometimes how much I'm guided to post stuff. And then I'm seeing like nothing, and I'm like, okay, somebody's got to be seeing this. Like, why am I being disturbed almost to like keep going at this crazy pace? So I think they are seeing it more than we get to know, which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not just crazy ranters online, thank goodness. But
someone just said, no, I need the post. And I think, I don't know if you operate this way, but I will only do a post if I'm intuitively guided. Like, I get told, do this, write this. Like, it's not even, I don't even feel like it's coming from the human me anyway. It's a higher
You're beyond that now.
It's my higher self, or whoever, one of my aspects that just like, right. And I look back and go, wow, that was actually quite insightful. I now understand.
That was profound. Yeah, I do the same way. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna keep this one for later. Works
It's
out.
nice. It's nice to hear that. But
My friend Crystal's watching, and she said she's the only one who gets my posts, and I'm like, thanks, Crystal, appreciate you. She tries.
that's beautiful. Well, before we go, because I know that there's a big topic to talk around the children. I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot, and obviously we're kind of in synchronicity, or in what I've been guided to do and what you're doing. So that's very exciting, and I think that means a lot for the world. But before we go into that, can we just backtrack? Because I want to know a little bit more about like your intuitive forecast about the sun and how people can prepare themselves,
Okay,
if that's okay.
just give me a second.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I'll just be like, okay, what do I want to say about this? Okay, what I want to say is be cautious because there is going to be mainstream push is basically about all of this stuff, about all the disclosure and everything that our, all of our friends and our niche communities and so on have already accepted, already making content about, being suppressed about, blah, 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 whatever, because there is a schedule. But there is so much more to it. And the psychological aspect, I'm grateful I went into psychology, because sociology, psychology, because I could see the perspective and the techniques they use to basically install new societal and cultural norms and so on. So we've been watching them do this for years, but now the norm likely is going to have to get in the direction like we've been seeing with multidimensional different beings and planetary bodies and stars and portals and that sort of network of energy transfer that's sort of been pushed under the rug and ignored, obviously put into a ton of media now, and everybody's got a portal gun and everybody's going into dimensions and meeting with aliens and so on. But the level of fear that could be generated on our planet of, I don't even know how many beings, like truly the organic beings feel our stress too. So all of us, um, what could be provoked in the people, continuous fear about what our sun is going to do, or that it's going to cause issues, or that our own food supplies and our own water and our own environment is in deep danger. And I just feel deeply that that is not the case, and that we are actually doing really well. And we should be very optimistic about the next few years, because those of us who've stuck to our heart and have been listening and sun gazing as well, most of us, I should say, most of us have been getting the message to just get even more organic, more grounded, and focus on the next generations and getting them fortified and teaching them, while the community's potentially being fear mongered, teaching them actively, like, look at this is how they do this, or this is a way to lie to people and manipulate people. We don't do this, we don't want this is not productive. It is a teaching opportunity, thankfully, but our sun is very, I feel like it has a lot of personality as well, and it has a good communion with us as well as our earth. I think they have a really good relationship. And I think that the planets as well in our solar system are also fixing their drama amongst each other, and their relationships are getting better. And we have stories and so on about the drama of their past. Sometimes people don't even know that those stories are talking about the planets and what, you know, galactic drama and, solar system wide drama. But I feel like the drama is actually going away. And the very last moments of feeding off of people's fear is likely going to be happening up until 2025. And I know a lot of people also think that they may be getting taken or like transferred or so on. And I've been seeing and hearing that a bit. And that is a very big possibility, because there is so many soul groups here that were meant to be here during different times. They were meant to do different things, have different jobs elsewhere, likely, because maybe our planet is finally past a certain point. So boom, you guys go to the next project.
Yeah, I get
Right?
chills.
And some people think they're getting a vacation. So I'm thinking they're just being like, okay, guys, and now next to this, going to off to this planet to do the same thing, and just keep gardening and
Mm,
praying, and over here, and you're gonna whoop raise the vibration over here. And I'm seeing and hearing a lot of things. I'm also seeing a lot more presence coming and going between the sun, physically visible on the satellite imagery. And some of the more wacky YouTubers I watch who get super excited about looking at random anomalies in the sky, which I enjoy. I'd say on a weekend when I'm relaxing, like, oh, let's look at the anomalies that are on this channel and let's see the little blips and slow mo and infrared
yeah.
imaging and so on. But there's so much more, and I think it's going to be inside of us. And working on our dream space should be a big um, way to access the solar portal in a way too, because I've
Mm,
physically flown in a dream through portals and into the sun and so on. And the dream time is very important. And I don't even spend as much time in the dream realm consciously as some people do. And I know a lot of people dream about me and think I'm an amazing astral traveler walker. And I'm just sitting here in my house, like meditating and visiting all these people, but I'm not. It's, but it's a metaphor of, well, of what I represent and what you
mm,
need to awaken in your own persona. And that's sort of the solar awareness, is like, we are all children of the sun. If you can go out in the sun, you are of the sun. If you're eating leaves for sustenance, you're eating for the photons. Like, you need photons to eat. And we're going to get a lot more photons, I think, to eat, and we're not going to need as much of the dense food. And the food shortages may not even be as much of an issue, even though I don't think there's going to be shortages either.
mm,
But we won't even need food as much if
yeah.
we're going to enjoy this little peak of radiation potentially. So that's cool. But yeah, internally traveling into the solar plexus and their sun within yourself is
Hmm.
an exercise I want more people to work on, because this area needs to just like, it needs to expand and be freed off of a lot of people.
Mm,
And I'm looking forward to how that's going to unravel. There's
mm,
so many psychological like blocks that have been put in generationally in such
mm.
strange ways you don't even know until you've unblocked it. And then you're like, oh, you know, getting told to shut up when you were a kid was super not helpful or
Yeah.
whatever. And now you're trying to wake up a whole planet. And it's like, oh, but grandma might yell at me. It's like, don't think about that. Okay. Grandma needs you. You are now grandma. So you got to take charge and like go do the thing. And just try not to yell at anybody on the way and learn your lesson or whatever. But there's some major blocks that are going to be pulled away from a big group of us, and some people who haven't even taken the leap to make a channel or like put themselves out there or host services and so on. Like, I feel like we're training more people to do that. We're training more people to be more financially liberated for projects, and we're preparing in interesting ways financially over here, which is something I wasn't expecting, like training people in the new financial systems.
Mm.
And it's all aliens helping aliens like prepare for what the aliens
Literally.
remember is the process of like a planet entering the galactic community, I'm pretty sure. And we're all like, yeah, this is a protocol. Like, yeah, we need this, and we're definitely going to need some of this. And that's what it feels like.
And I can't wait to dive into that. And I'm going to get, Jace on soon. And
Yes,
shout
very
out to
soon.
Jace because I think he's got some gems for me, as you do. I've been tuning into the financial stuff for a bit, and it goes hot and cold for me. But yeah,
Yes, me
so
too.
I think that's important because I was also having a lot of requests of people asking me questions, and I'm like, go follow Jace. I don't know the answers, but let me get them on. I'll ask the questions because
He's
I
got a
want to know
free
too.
seminar tomorrow too on his, you can sign up on his website, consciouscrypto.info, and just sign up. It's tomorrow at like, it's at noon, or I think at noon our time over here. So let's
Okay.
see. It's a little early for you guys for sure.
Well, I mean, if you're really keen, like
If you're
it's a
keen, yeah,
weekend.
it might be worth it. He's going to have a blast, and it's truly his passion. And like, you know,
Can
many
I don't
people
know
in
if
our,
Jason's watching. I did see him before, but
I
can
think he
you
might be.
also Can you please put the link in the comments?
There you
I'm
go.
just, I mean, I could probably do a banner, but that's just probably too much for my brain.
I was gonna say I might have to do it, but I can do it
We
really
can do it
quick.
after, but yeah, just for anyone who is interested in that.
I'm just helping everybody get their projects out
Yeah.
in the best way that I can in our soul group and in our community. Like it's not a secret who is engaging with us, who is active, who really is getting it, and who is on the mission. Like we can recognize each other because we're like, haha, yes, but back to work. Like, yes, we get to rest. Oh, we had a little me time. Back to work. Like you wake up, you're working, you're sleeping, you're working. Like as soon as you think you're getting a rest over here, you're working over here. It's just nonstop. But I
Yeah.
think it's gonna it's just gonna keep getting more interesting, but more people are gonna get activated, so we're gonna have to do less. Hopefully. Hopefully. I think that's the goal. I mean, that's what the kids are supposed to do. Really. We're supposed to literally turn and look at them, be like 10 years younger than you. Okay, this is what you need to replace me. And then what are you working on? Like, okay, what do
Mm,
you need?
mm,
What can
mm,
we do from our position to help you get ready for your position? And I've been
mm,
thinking about that a lot. And I don't know why, but I'm thinking about them from like, teenage years to like as and barely speaking, like,
mm,
hey guys,
mm, mm.
let's address you because they're bored. They're already bored. All these
Yeah.
kids, they're all being pulled out of
Oh,
school, put in homeschool. Their starseed parents are like, I can't entertain this kid. Like they're still just like, ah, like they're incredibly powerful. So,
yeah.
man,
Let's talk about the kids. I mean, there's so much I want to share and express too. And
please.
oh my goodness, like I'm currently working on I'm actually working on two books at the moment. I haven't
Oh,
officially.
yay.
Yeah. So
I know you had the new channel.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I'm actually co-authoring with a group of authors, and it's around the rising of the new paradigm of education for children. So I'm currently working on that, which hopefully my part will be complete by this month. So there'll be more information about that maybe in a few months' time when it gets to publishing. But there is, this is the second. There's already a book out. This will be the second one.
Yes,
So
that's awesome.
I was very, yeah, I felt very honored to be invited to be a part of that. So I guess in the, and there's amazing people coming from all different angles, but I'm kind of taking the starseed um,
Good.
perspective and writing about that. So um, I didn't expect to say that, but and I'm also writing my book, which I've been working on for 7 years. Um, you know,
Very nice.
you can't rush these things. But a lot of it is reflection of childhood. And I think that's coming up for me now in relation to deeper understanding myself as a starseed child and how I
Mhm.
struggled and not wanting other children to struggle in the same way I did and not understanding things. So yeah, I mean, from
Yes. So
and
true.
I've always been so passionate about that. And I think you and I share a commonality around that is that I think for me, it's been such a passion, but it hadn't been the right time and like attempting to do things and it not quite landing. And now like I can't get away from it. It's like, do this, do that. Got to do it all right now. Which, as I said earlier, I think that's exciting because that is preparing for the next waves of children who are being born around, obviously with my work when you were children, but it's also acknowledging and embracing the ones that are already here that have, you know, maybe struggling or are really misunderstood. And I know that I tend to work with some of those children and parents, and oh my God, nothing like explodes my heart more than when I get to interact with these children. And yeah, there's just a lot to be done in that space. But I would like to hear about your projects and your downloads. And I mean, you're talking about the sun children and the moon children. I don't know where you want to begin, but
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying earlier when we were trying to figure out how and what was going to actually come through on this talk, I was meditating about it and was getting about the sun and the moon children and how that potentially there is potentially that kind of classification
Mm.
of people
Mm-hmm.
and on our planet, and how perhaps that they run their electromagnetic system, how they run, the moon children likely would be up. They're more of the night people. They would be up when the moon's being illuminated by the sun, when the moon is being activated and with the electromagnetic energy. And then, of course, then there's the sun children, which I think I would classify myself as one because I've never been able to be awake during the night almost at all. Like, I really have always been such an incredible sleeper. When the sun is up, I'm up and I'm totally fine. I don't need any stimulants. I've never had any. I've only dealt with depression really, and it's probably because of the moon. I'll be honest, the moon has a big impact. And I'm learning now and integrating that, thankfully, which I'll get into in a second. But yes,
Do
the sun
I have a
is a totally
random
different.
question.
Go on.
Is it possible that someone could be a hybrid of like a part moon sun child?
I would assume so, and I would assume that that is sort of what the goal is here, potentially as well, is to mix and like even pair people up who are more
Ah,
moon-like with who are more sun-like to have
yeah.
that sort of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the moon is more of the feminine aspect, they say, and is a little bit more muted. It doesn't give off its own light or anything. It sort of needs someone to shine upon them, and then they can also shine, and it's great. And
Mm-mm.
it seems like the moon is definitely having more going on inside, and the moon children, even our moon, potentially, I've dreamt about being inside of it, with the moon people, like the moon community or people who are there and trying to live on Earth instead or find another place to go. And I've been there, I've seen it. It's destitute. It's pretty much just like prisons and bases that are broken down and not being used anymore is what I keep seeing in the
Yeah.
dreams. And
Yeah.
I was told a lot about the moon being, of course, a way to make children and like, a part of the programs as well of hybridization and,
Yeah.
seeding planets with bodies to, walk,
Mm.
be born into so you can
Mm.
experience this planet versus over here. And I think there's some more to come of that. And of course, the moon, man, it's crazy to me really how much the moon is such a huge player in our reality
Yeah.
and how little people can know about it. It just had some type of amazing ability to just reflect our astral projections and our thoughts.
Mm.
And everyone's been like, what is this thing and what's going on there? But just nobody really gets an idea. But now it's very much like the moon is ours now, and things are cleaning up,
Mm.
and we're gotta the sweep has expanded past the moon. There's, it seems like that's the overall consensus. Like things have the
Yeah, I'll
pressure and the
add to that.
control.
I think it was around the end of 2020. I had a series of sessions on women who have like severe menstrual pain in their
Hmm.
cycle.
Right.
And I was seeing etheric energy cords that were going from their womb to the moon.
Right.
But they weren't strong. And it was like that, if that was a program, if that was something that they were involved in energetically or however. I mean, we could rabbit hole there, we won't for now, but um, those cords were being severed and they weren't active, is what I can say. And it was like an energy cord that went from the moon straight into the sacral chakra.
And it wasn't any more active, you said? Or it was?
It
Yeah, I was
wasn't.
getting that too. It's like
Mm.
what I keep getting is it's gonna be tourist ready very soon. Is
Cool.
what I'm getting. Is like, you cute earthlings get to adopt your cute moon and yay. And it kind of is that vibe. Like, don't worry about that. Like, if you want to know, obviously, if you're in the occult or if you're in these disclosure communities and you're in the ex-military and you're like having memories and dreams, like definitely look into it, because that all that stuff is being disclosed. It's being published online. You can find a lot of answers to a lot of really hard questions online now, and that's
Yes.
a relief, because now the innocence of us can also be restored, because those who need to know can find out and heal, and then those who never had that experience don't have to deal with this weird trauma in their realm that they don't even understand the source of, which is what I experienced a lot as a kid,
Yeah.
especially was, what the hell is everyone's problem? Like, why? Like, what are you so upset about? And why can't you look at me? Or why are you staring at me? Or, it's very strange disconnections and a hypnosis, really. There was massive hypnosis going on, and it disembodied souls and stuff walking around, and children who were not in their bodies and children who were not conscious, but it was strange. You're walking amongst like the zombie people. And thankfully, since I've left my hometown, I'm now hearing that things are starting to wake up there and things are getting better. But these stronger nodes on Earth, if you're living on these grid points and so on, like where I grew up was also a grid point. Now I'm in Sedona, which is just filled with portals and grids, and it's literally anodes backwards. Like, it's a way for energy to just anchor in here. And it feels totally different. It feels like a totally different situation going on here versus and all these other spots. And if you live near a base, and if if you live around and experience a lot of moon worship, especially in your community, and because the feminine is empowered by watching the moon, because of those cords that we're harvesting women every month. So it's like, might as well get on top of it, do what you can back in the day when the moon here or whatever. And now I agree with you that the energy has stopped being as weird. I used to not even look at it. I was just like disgusted. I was just like, ugh. Like,
I agree. There were
don't
times
look
where I
at
was
it.
like, I can't look at it. And now I'm just like, oh, it's there, cute, whatever. Like,
Right?
I feel different. But I do want to, can I share something? Because I mean, you're talking about
Yeah.
your childhood, and that's been huge for me. I've been, I've been down some dark rabbit holes in the last couple of
Yes.
months. And
I bet.
I've talked about it a little bit, and I'm still unpacking. But I think the difference is when you go through a dark night of the soul and you get switched off and you're just so confused, and like you're totally in the simulation. This has been different because it's like I'm going through it very consciously. So it's
Yes.
not like I'm going through it with remembering that I am light, and not, I mean, I have my moments. Don't get me wrong. But
You're like, I'm already light. Why do you have to show me this? Like, I get that too. I'm just like, why? What else do you want? Like, okay, I'll write children's books. Fine. Like, all right, I guess.
But I mean, the sequence of events was like being, I believe, targeted and got ill in February.
Okay.
The more that I think about that, there's this sort of theory going, it's a theory going around that there was like a lot of radiation
I
type
saw it.
yeah. And the more I look into it, I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like that. But I'm not going to get all down on the dumps. I see it for what it is, and I see how it's been a really positive clearing process for me. And it's been a lot around, funnily enough, my stomach, my solar plexus, and
Right.
cleaning up my physical body and my diet, things like that. But I've also looked at the energetic component to what I've been trying to clear out. And then the memories start to surface around like abductions and
Yes.
yeah. And it's been, I mean, I feel like I need to share, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but
Yes.
um,
I mean, I think you should genuinely, like, the most you can remember, the better, because people don't even know what to call it sometimes.
yeah, well, I mean, for me, it's like this energetic residual, and it's coming, it came back in memory form just spontaneously because I think it was time. But there is definitely memories of being tested on as a child. And initially I thought it was grays, and it probably still could be. I don't have faces around, and I don't want to demonize any group. Like, it was an experience that my soul chose to have. Um, but I think the effects, because I'm correlating now the physical symptoms that I'm purifying through my body, is when that occurred when I was a child. And it's between the ages, and I'm seeing correlations now between the ages of 9 and 11,
9.
where I gained a lot of weight. I had a lot of physical symptoms. I was diagnosed with all sorts of things, but my behavior changed. And my behavior changed in I slept walked regularly and found myself outside often, you know. Um, and I was terrified that my parents were going to die, in a car accident, and all these really weird things that I never spoke about. And it was just so strange. It never made sense. And now you kind of go, and I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that I feel like it was on Earth experience, not necessarily off Earth. But I'm still rabbit holing, and hence part of like, yeah, go.
I was gonna say I have something for you that you might like with that.
Mm.
When we went to the Secret Space Conference and
Yeah.
we were watching some of the lectures, I missed most of the lectures, to be honest. So we've been watching them at home afterwards. And one of the speakers, who basically is claiming that he was, taken and more so, I would say, kind of like sold into servitude for about 20 years. And he was saying that he was starting to learn about the timelines and like when these shipments basically were going out or coming back. And he narrowed it in. He was saying 2002 was the last time. And then 20 years from that was right now. So there's a lot, I think, of braiding back of these other aspects that have been contracted, I will say kindly, to do whatever needs to be done to I don't have the words, but
Yeah.
the vast complexity that we all are and what we're capable of, and then what was being experimented on, which is just more evidence of our vast complexity and our intelligence and our capacity. Even though we push it to the limits and go, ooh, that was a little too far. It still got pushed. They still pushed it all the way until they literally couldn't anymore push, until you're just melting people. And those aspects, I think, are braiding back with a lot of people, because it's this 2022 year, potentially, with this timeline he was showing me. And that would have put me, I think, as well, around that same age, around 9. But I remember my personality changing when I was in the 2nd grade. And my family even was like, and they got me a dog, because they were like, why are you depressed all of a sudden? Like, what happened? What happened to you? And it was right after, I think, I was assessed, and they told my parents that I was some type of, like, they wanted to separate me into like some other class and like be some other type of learner. And my parents were like, no, she's been talking since she's like barely been moving. Like, she's clearly fine. Like, just keep her with the other kids. And that was when, I don't remember what year that is, but I remember thinking about my own past and where I don't remember anything. And yeah, certainly after about, I don't know, I don't have any memories really from that period of time. And until maybe, I don't know, I think about 4th grade, I started coming to, but I had been placed in a Catholic school all of a sudden and was surrounded by literally those beings and their minions. And it was a whole other mission. And I've been on that pretty much since then. Like, I've been observing the anomalies and like the coming down of the system. And obviously 2001 happened, and that was a big deal. So they just blew open all these timelines, it seemed like. And then 2002, it seemed like they came in and like scooped up and did all these operations, and now they're all ending. So I think there's a huge amount of disclosure that's going to be happening. And I don't think much is happening with those types of programs ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And that would make oh my goodness, that would make so much sense as to why so many people are recalling memories. Like, I know I'm not alone. Like,
No,
I look
no.
at everyone around me, like, going through some sort of recall. And
And then there's all the hybrid moms, so we're stuck. They just left them here for the most part. They kept using them too. Like it was crazy. Like I watched my own mother going through all of this. So I was like into it right away, like trying to protect her and
yeah,
protect myself from she was more nonchalant about it, apathetic almost a little bit. Like it
uh,
is what it is. Like
yeah.
look at this new mark and I'm having this dream. And as a kid, I was
Mm,
like, we got to get this to stop. And I started seeing them and feeling them in our house and seeing them over our house. And it was just like, no, this is not
yeah,
okay. And thankfully, I met all of you around that time too.
right.
So, some other people who have some tools to help us and
Mm,
reassure us. But
yeah.
Canada and Australia and the UK and so on have a whole different thing going on
Mm,
and different contracts, and
yeah. Yeah.
it's funny to meet
I
people
am
internationally
deep
now
in.
and all their weird contracts and what they've noticed. And mm,
Well, I'm deep. I've been deep in SSP rabbit holes for a while. I'm working on a project at the moment, and so I'm
wow.
kind of in a research mode to understand and come to and also my own internal research,
Right.
because a lot of it I feel a part of my role potentially is like to work on what I do best, which is energy work to help
Yes.
heal and integrate the fragmented trauma aspects. And so obviously I'm practicing on myself first and then, you know, um, but I this is so, as I was going through watching, and I'm watching a lot of replays of, Journey to Truth and a lot of great content out there.
Yes.
I like to collect data in different ways, right? I know that,
Mhm.
and that's just how my brain's always operated. But what
Well,
I
you're a
have
Pisces.
noticed,
I mean, we just have to listen to what you're getting and we'll be fine. I'm just like, give it to me. Tell me, tell me, tell me.
well, and I'm like, maybe there's something to this, maybe there's not. But what I've noticed is a lot of people say around their 20 and back started when they were 9 years old, or these experiences happened when they were 9 years old. I know that's true for me. So
Right.
if you're looking at just a pure 20 and back in linear time,
Sure.
29 years old to 29 years old, right?
Correct.
29 is when your Saturn return roughly occurs,
Mhm.
right? So when you go through your Saturn return, obviously your whole life changes quite drastically. Everyone, and like, was that intentional or is that coincidence? It can't be. I mean, nothing is accidental in this universe. But
Yeah, it was all something about how the portals were opening, and it happens every 20 years.
mm,
So, something about that. So, it could literally be through, the areas over by Saturn and Jupiter because I mean, I've heard enough about those portals and so on. Plenty of
mm,
times I've heard about the one in the moon, behind the moon, by the sun, behind the sun, on our planet, in our planet. Like, there's all these different pathways and so on.
mm,
But it is fascinating how so many of us now are having memories of doing this type of service and uncovering these trainings and like unlocking abilities that we're like, why do I know how to do this? Like, why do I care about listening to the testimony of someone literally being tortured to death and
mm,
then splitting and like being used as an altar? Like, why do I want to know these things? Why do I just like and then want to care for the person who went through this as well?
mm,
It's like
mm,
both sides. Like, I want to heal it from my end, but also find those who were tortured and help
mm,
them and genuinely give them that community love back because their family couldn't protect them.
mm,
uh,
mm,
their friends probably have no idea what they're talking about. So
mm, mm,
they might, though, they might start getting it back
mm.
in the next 5 years when the sun starts opening us up more and making us more alive. And
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I I recently connected and had a session with Rebecca Rose. You know,
wow, yeah, she
I
did a
I,
great job.
I adore her. Me and her have a beautiful connection since I
Oh,
first interviewed her, and when I'm going through things, I kind of reach out to her as someone that I trust and respect, who's going to help support me in that realm.
Right.
And yeah, one thing that kind of ties in and comes back into my mind was like asking, I think she asked the question, like, what is my purpose in all of this?
Right.
Because my question to her was, what's my involvement in the program? And at that point, like, there
Like,
wasn't information.
why?
Like, why?
Yeah.
And she talked about a past life trauma that I had that involved a child being, sacrificed, my own child.
Right.
But she said, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but she said, like, from that trauma, which I don't have any recall of, but I cried. So it hit me on some level.
Right.
Um, from that trauma, she said it was like you made a vow that this would never happen to children again. And you basically wanted to heal and rescue all children. Um, and it still brings up emotion. And
Yeah.
she clarified that, and she goes, I'm not just talking about the children in like young children. I'm talking about the adult sized children. Yeah, all children. And yeah, as you can see, like that brings up emotion for me and
Yes.
sparks my passion because yeah, there's something there. And we talk about traumas and how we have to heal them, but I think what comes to my mind right now is like traumas happen that make us passionate and give us motivation and drive to want to do great things to create change. So anyway, going back into the children and looking forward, like now and forward in sorry, I've lost my words and my um I'd like to hear like what's on the horizon in terms of for you in the little ones and the big little ones and all the
Yeah.
the umbrella of children.
Well, something was coming in my mind. Thankfully, I knew, because you know how you and I get, and I'm really glad that we could do this even on a live stream as well, so people could be like, oh, like, there's some progress being made here. And what I was getting was that, who we really need to turn to, you and I, and a lot of these survivors are 9-year-olds who have been able to remain innocent and have not, and what is it that they actually do with their time? What is it that they like to do? What is it they like to watch? What is it they like to talk about right now? And because a lot of us didn't get that. A lot of us, somehow something got lifted out of us and off it went, and we just kind of were a husk of ourselves here until whatever point that kind of smacked back, and I literally got hit with a vehicle, and experienced a major physical, excuse me if that was loud, sorry, but it hit a physical hit, and it felt like, as it is 2022, it felt like a piece of me came back, and I was just like,
Oof.
oh, and it felt like a piece of me that for sure was in these types of clandestine sort of situations. And I don't know why, but you should have seen the scene of the scene. I wish there might be some type of traffic cam or something, but the way that I unbuckled and got out of that vehicle, it during and how I didn't disassociate at all, and no slowing of time either. It was very like,
Wow.
it was very interesting. And a lot of people are like, oh, did you? And I'm like, nope. I watched the car just graze off the front of the thing, like looked up, and it was already over, and the airbag had already hit me, and I was already unbuckling, opening the door, and walking out into the middle of the 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 intersection, watching this big black Suburban like park itself over here, looking like I was activated in this all other way, and was like, boom, 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 boom. Okay, got it, got it, got it. Where's the car? What happened? And it was intense. And that sort of activation hasn't really gone away either. It was a bit of an awakening of myself and of this, like, I wanted to call it my dragon. Internally, it felt like something that was unearthed, even from within the earth, was pulled back up into my body and was here to protect me, but not only protect me, but it really wanted to protect, again, the children and, the children within us all, and give back in that way and fortify people in that way. And with that sort of fierceness of a dragon, because literally no demon can even, deal with a dragon. The dragon is the most intense being, in my opinion. It's an angelic, godly. I mean, I don't even have a ton of a religious background at all. I don't have enough. So whenever I hear something, I'm like, oh, that rings a bell. And then I can look it up. And then I hear and see all these connections. And the dragon activation was actually quite a big metaphor, I want to say. And it also had to do with the Roman Catholic Church, is something I found. And the deals and so on, that whatever they did with the grid lines and whatever they did to the portals and blah, 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 to the inner earth, to the upper earth, something about that, I think, was released. And that was what was keeping this like dragon energy, these ley lines, and this natural Sophia, soul of our planet, soul of the protector of the innocent, soul of the protector of the elements, arising in myself. And I was able to experience it in such a vivid way. And I want to just embody that. It's still that, be that. And I'm not as afraid of pretty much all the things that I definitely was a little bit more like, I don't need to worry about that, or maybe I won't. Now it's just like, no, you have to stand up because there's no one else to do it. And of course, that's a Saturn return, like, ta-da, like, yay, Saturn return, you're a new, more serious adult. But indeed, there is some seriousness, but also the playfulness of reinstalling and reinvigorating the inner child within everybody. And those of us who experienced the worst or witness somebody experiencing the worst. And that is, babies are huge into mirroring. So if you hurt someone in front of them, they will have the same reaction and they will have the same trauma pretty much. So it's a very effective learning technique of survival. But in our realm now, as a heart-centered society, we're not going to need, we're not going to be dealing with that type of aggression anymore, in my opinion, but we will be dealing with the fallout of the older generations who need their inner child activated, and they're going to be flailing around. They're going to need help. So to fortify the children, to tell them, hey, a lot of this crappy stuff happened to these adults, and we're going to protect you so that doesn't happen to you, and so they don't mess with you either, because they'll want your light. They'll want to know what you still have, because they'll realize something in them is gone and that you clearly have it.
Yeah.
That's been a big issue, but I think it's going to keep continuing to kind of be a stress that we're going to have to, face like brave dragons, and just put our feet down and be like, no, we're not. You can't access these beings. Sorry. But you can talk to me. So let's talk. So yeah, you want this? Great. Why don't we have an interview, you and me first, and then we'll see where you're at, and we'll see how many boxes you still need checked before you have access to the children, and how we're going to be able to separate their realms. There's been lots of ways, like these new schooling systems and so on, of how pull people away, children away from the mind control and so on. So it's helping, but they're all scattered in all these other places. But thankfully, most people still watch YouTube. So if you're out there hearing me and you're like, what do I do? Can I help? Start making kids channel YouTube videos, because there's a whole kids YouTube app that most parents know about, because most parents need to give their kids something to do, because their kids are sponging up everything like crazy. So they're just absorbing so much content. So anyways, that's what I was guided to move into after that scenario. And then immediately I just went back to work with my adult community, because those are the children I've been working on so far. But to actually approach the actual kids who haven't had to age well into their life before they've gotten this type of attention and support, that's a whole other crowd. And I was intimidated. I was genuinely didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I could quite understand what they needed. But now it's like, I don't even care about those doubts anymore. I'm just going to try, because at least I feel like I'm being guided now with what to do. which is good.
Mm.
I was kind of
Oh.
not sure yet. I was waiting. I mean, I've been told I was going to do children's books for since 2014, around when I was walking
Mm.
around Rome and doing my like European grid working 33-day long Ascension trip that I did. And it was crazy. And right before the whole world literally lost it in 2015, like everything just went
Mm.
2015. So
Mm.
it was intense, and I gathered up a lot of dragons and underground stuff and a whole bunch of temples and all that crazy stuff back then. And I still want to write about it and teach about it. And that's what I'm
I mean,
going
there's
from.
so much creative stuff that can come through for children specifically, but I think it's about healing and accessing our own inner child to have that energy to do that with the connectability, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Keeping it definitely is coming from my inner child, and like
For
the
sure.
sharing that I maybe wanted to do back then with my creative energy that I just wasn't able to do because I was never a part of the scheduled programming.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I mean, they did teach me to write in the English language very, they really wanted me to be good at that, but they didn't want anyone to give me any, compliments on my writing or, oh, you moved me, or that was really creative, and oh, I liked your idea. Like, never ever heard that ever. And now as an adult, I hear it all the time, and I'm just like what? Like, sure, like good for me. Like, wow. Like, it doesn't really
It's
hit the same way. So that's sort of
it's
that
so
inner
funny you
child, like,
mention that.
you got to receive that again and build from that, and really take constructive criticism too from
Yeah, yeah.
children as your audience now. Like, that's going to be a totally different review
Totally.
process,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
parents, and it's a risky place to go. Like, I'm trying
Mm.
to do good for the kids, and I know people are protective of them. So I just don't want to offend anyone or go
Mm.
too far in any direction. Like, those are the things I worry about sometimes. But with
Yeah.
adults, you can do whatever you want and just be as wild and make as many memes, and like, it's fine. It'd be
Right.
controversial. It's cool. We're
Mm.
much more jaded children at this age. So,
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
which jade is beautiful. So it's not a terrible word.
No, not at all. I mean, it's part of how we are and how we've been, and who we're transforming into. Um, I have a
Someone's writing
question.
about reading to the children, reading their own books and recording yourself reading children's books, and even making that as content, which is what I'm going to do doing
That
too.
is,
But I got
yeah,
to write the books too, which is like, it's intimidating, but
that's
I'm
cool.
reading other people's books now as well. I'm going to add that into the schedule eventually.
Yeah. But I also want to say to people to really support those up and coming, um, writers or content makers who've already put stuff out there. I know someone contacted me about
Oh yeah.
sometime in the last year who wrote, and I can't think of the title, so I
Yeah,
apologize. But
we definitely aren't the only ones getting this download. I've been seeing it everywhere.
yeah,
Like, all of a sudden, everyone's opening a kids channel. I'm like, okay, yes, like this is good. This is a good sign.
it
I'm
really
excited.
is, and it's so
The kids are
healing.
starving. They're like,
Yeah,
I don't know. They're
yeah. I
hungry.
mean, I I'm running a Star Kids meetup on the Saturday, the 18th of June, which will
Yay.
be my first. And that was prompted because I did a energy training program a week or so ago, and two kids happened to be on it because they were home from school,
Huh.
and one of them sat through the whole thing and loved it, and I got this beautiful email afterwards. So obviously that was the universe's sign. I got to work with these kids, and I guess I
Right.
see myself in a lot of these children,
Yeah.
in the sense that, like, when I started learning about energy and like healing and all this kind of cool stuff, I felt normal. I felt seen. I didn't feel misunderstood so much. So, you know, I want
Yeah.
to be able to bring some of the fun and the knowledge and the things that were helpful that I've learned along the way to kids to help navigate through, energetic turbulence or whatever it is. So, but as a preliminary, we're starting just with a meetup with parents and kids, and I think it'll just kind of organically mutate, I'm going to use your word, into what it's meant to.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Like,
Mm.
excellent idea. Like, that's truly, I think, the good spot. I was like, could you ever interview a child on your channel like this? You know, would you ever consider that? And I'm like, yeah, that's good. And there's going to be a few like that because there is Aquarian energy, so they will like technology, the good
Yeah.
stuff, to a
I
degree. But then meeting them in person is how you actually teach them and
mm,
transfer your physical, well,
mm,
immunity and your codes and so on and your skills to these kids, even just by getting in their aura and transferring that light. And that's essential. And
mm,
that's how I've upgraded, is I keep going to these events with these people and I get all of these, you know, what this person's been working on in their energy body. All of a sudden I watch them do it and then boom, it's a memory. I mirrored it. I've got it. And
yeah. Yeah.
it's extremely effective. So the videos help with that too, obviously, but it's more just one at a time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Look, I'm really privileged because I work with some amazing clients who have the most incredible children, and I get to have an insight into these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I do sessions on kids too, not as much as I think I will in the future, perhaps, but that's going to look a bit different.
Right.
Um, and I have asked the question if the parents feel comfortable, because, like, I'll give an example. I did a session on I can't say a teenager. Um, I think it was last year, and the accuracy in which she described the experiences and the dreams and the downloads that she had around the sun, the shift, the solar
Right.
flash, and New Earth was identical to what I've seen. And I was like, and she doesn't have access to any of this content. Her
Right.
mum, and I'm just like, and that I think that was what sparked me. And I sort of spoke to her mum, like, by any chance, can I get this girl on camera because she's incredible, you know? So hopefully, yeah, hopefully there will be some of that coming through. With, you know, and I think it's a safe, comfortable for me to have the parents there if they want to be there than just having, yeah, the kids. So it's like a more community, family friendly space, perhaps.
I agree. Like, to have them as the safety line of like,
Mm.
just a turn to for reassurance or reminding kids. Yeah, I see that. That's super effective. And
Mm,
yeah, the flash and the awakening, I don't
mm,
know how she described it, but what I was going to say is it more so is a personal experience that kind of happens within, and
mm,
and then you see it coming out of your eyes in a way, and you're like, oh, I'm seeing everything that all of a sudden, like, it's like projects out of us, a lot of it. And I think people are waiting for something outside of us, which it certainly happens, and we're laid out and everything. But the most, the biggest awakening I had was, in a way, my own internal solar flash, where it was like, I
yeah.
almost died, in my opinion. It was like, you could
Mm,
leave out of your body right now if you wanted. And I was looking up at the sky and this eyeball forming in the clouds looking at me, which does happen
when was
when I'm
that?
in those modes. It's just all of a sudden, I don't know if it's my own like kind of psychedelic,
Mm,
projection of my brain creating
mm,
this eyeball. But whenever I'm starting to get to those levels, I'll look up and I'll see
mm,
it on a tree or see some type of eye looking back at me.
mm, mm,
And it's like you out here, like, this is me, this is you, what's going on? Like, are you going to be okay? We've got you. You could leave, but you actually have a lot left to do, is what I was told back then. And I was never the same. Like, it was, again,
mm, mhm,
never the same. Like, okay, this is real. Like, this is happening to people around me. I message people all the time now about this
mm.
phenomena. So what is it that she said what happened? Can you give me the jot notes? I'm really curious.
I actually can't remember now. It was last year, but
Okay.
yeah, I just remembered that it was very similar to what I was tapping into and had been. Um, but I think what really struck me and what she shared with me was more about the new Earth children. Oh, that's right. Yeah. The newer
Right.
children and education system, and that she was a teacher with all these children, and she then said, I don't know if I asked or she said they weren't all human.
Right.
They were hybrids as well as human children. Mm.
Nice.
And I was like, my
How
eyes
old
lit
was
up.
she when that was? How old was she?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that much older. I think she was when I spoke to her, she was like 15 or 16. I think maybe, this is a guess, 23.
Okay, so that's making me go, okay, so usually you get into that profession around in your late 20s,
Yeah.
so like,
I think it was like early to mid 20s, perhaps. Yeah.
I mean, it is very fascinating and to me now, especially how things keep going, how they're going to be able to
I have,
create this new level of immigration, I should say, potentially, or integration of different looking people who
mm,
seem to all just vibe on the same level anyways, no matter how weird they look. They all just want to hang out and do the same stuff, and
mm-hmm.
it's fascinating to me. But I think
I
that
have a question for you.
okay,
Um, so going back to your internal solar flash event, when
right.
was that? What?
Yeah, that was 2018, I think it was.
Mine was the same year. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah, it was fun. They were
Do you remember
I
what
just
month?
remember having the dreams of like dreaming, but I was in my same house, but it looked slightly different, but it was filled with stuff and people were over
Mm,
here and people were arguing over here and it was just like this astral baggage that I had and I remember seeing that a lot during that time and having
yeah,
to kind of lift up out of that and let it go and literally leave a lot of
yeah.
my life behind and transform.
Mm,
And I did. And, you know, I'm grateful, but I hope I'm not asked to do the same thing again. But I am hearing lately a lot of people are getting that message again because I scroll. I
it's
cannot
like,
tell
yeah.
you how much I observe the internet, but it's an intense amount. But I'm doing it for a reason. And when I see what I see, I'm seeing a lot of people being like, I'm being asked to remove a lot of my material things. And I'm also feeling like
Mm,
I'm going on some type of trip and I'm leaving. And
yeah,
uh,
yeah. There's
some
a
people
lot of
have
movement.
dreams of going on ship and leaving. And uh, I think some people's souls and even their astral bodies might actually be leaving
Yeah,
and going other places and leaving a part of them back here for
I
you
agree.
know the rest of that life but they're not really there anymore
Mm,
is what I'm seeing a lot of too, so I'm
mm,
curious how this is going to work.
mm.
I don't know, maybe like lemmings, like all of the ones that no longer in their vessel are just going to jump off some cliff
Mm,
somewhere in the woods we won't even notice and all of a
mm.
sudden we'll be like yay new alien people, like it's going to be fine. Strange things need to happen. I'm very curious still.
Yeah, I mean
And
that brings up so many things in my mind.
I know.
But but my next question is, have you? I'm sure you've contemplated this.
Hmm.
Critical mass having their internal solar flash. What does that do to the planet?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that is going to be very fascinating because I'm trying to think what initiated mine was very personal. I want to say like it was a personal situation and my own energy body and my kundalini system totally was
Mm,
changing all of a sudden. I could feel it and then that was the peak of it, but I was sitting on my floor for like 3 days, not eating and
yeah.
feeling extremely heavy. Like I couldn't even sit on the couch. I had to sit on the ground, on the floor. I
Mm,
couldn't get up. And it was a very powerful, heavy, but enlightening shift where I was hearing and seeing so much stuff and getting all this information about
yeah.
honestly about what happened the last couple of years. I was getting all those downloads in that time in 2018 and then being like, am I leaving or staying? And they're like, you're staying. You're staying, honey. And here it's about to be good. But don't worry about your finances because financial redistribution is real. And
Oh,
you are
okay.
abundance. And that was a big one back then. And it's still a
Mm,
big theme and
yeah.
the
I
shifting.
can we go? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to take Jace's um I can't think of the word. I don't want to, encroach on
His
his
thunder.
his thunder. That's the one. Um, but maybe just to warm up, and you know, I hopefully I'll get him on pretty soon. But can you speak to anything around that without stepping
It
on
is
Jason's
funny
toes?
because it's almost like him and I are living in a slightly different density a little bit. So he's seeing this in between realm, this very like sliver thin golden foil, it seems
Mm,
like, in the timeline where he's been, and not just him, a few other, starseed, mostly gentlemen, but there is definitely some ladies in there who are very passionate and have been awakened to specific projects and for the global financial shift that is happening in more of the concrete way, where
mhm,
the banks, how they're going to be communicating their wealth between each other, and how we can communicate our wealth wirelessly, like quickly, instead of the delays which most people have been noticing more so in the banking
mm,
system and so on. Those delays sometimes is 3 business days. You're trying to buy something today but you can't even get your own money, those sort of problems.
mm,
And there's plenty of the solutions for that now if you have just like, cash on hand, but that money and that financing is based off of vampiric systems, so it's
mm,
constantly losing value, and therefore it's causes people to have to suck out of other people all the time just to sustain their lifestyles and so on. And that was always so frustrating because, again, as a sensitive child feeling all of these vampiric systems and lack of fairness, as a Libra, I was like, this isn't fair, this isn't fair,
mm,
this isn't just, this isn't, all the time just being like, this system sucks. And watching him get activated and almost battling in this realm where the shift is coming in, thinking about the families and the bloodlines that were controlling this particular project, and
mm,
how ancient it is of a
mm,
tool, and how now there's going to be another ancient but tool
mm,
replacing it, is and it teeters into that realm of like the artificial intelligence realm. It kind of teeters into technological, control of our resources realm. So I've been really cautious about that on my feminine side, being like,
yeah.
listen, like the trees don't need this, so why do I? That sometimes I have those thoughts like, trees, they got a different system. Like we have a different system. It's about who you know, more so about what you have lately. And that's kind of the age of Aquarius thing too. Like it's about who you know, it's about the connections you have, and we can share our resources. But it seems like there's also this boom that's being planned for some of the guardians of this next generation, these next potential 7, 14 generations who are being installed with this generational wealth that's been, taken from families and people, I think, that are kicked right out of our planetary system. So they've just left all of this behind. And these resources and so on are going to liberate our families based off of consciousness, and those who are
Mm,
intelligent enough in the beginning to actually understand how to
mm,
jump in before the mainstream system locks this in. But the bank tellers and people working at banks, they've already had to sign, NDAs and stuff, because they're not allowed to tell you what the plan is on their end, because they
mm,
will lose their jobs and or probably their bonuses that they will
mm.
get from this moving into the
Yeah,
new
wow.
shift.
Wow.
So he gets super passionate about that. He wants to help people get into that realm. And it's a fight because they're trying to control who gets what and when, just because they're control freaks in that
Mm,
realm. And I've never
mm,
enjoyed finances because control freak central. It's insanity. Like, when the tree blooms and there's fruit, it just gives fruit. There's fruit on the ground, there's fruit everywhere, and it'll fruit next year. And that's sort of, again, my mentality again. So these other systems don't always make the most sense, but I'm seeing and looking for the organic connections, as well as how intergalactic trade is also going to be that
mm,
conduit
mhm.
as well with
Yeah,
these
yeah.
technologies. But all of the poopy ones that are trying to distract people and steal their resources still on those
Mm,
last legs of this shift, they're all
mm,
getting shut down. They're all losing their credibility. everything's falling apart before our eyes. So the winter should rise. I think it's happening more so in this July again and into October. And astrologers know what I'm talking about as well. There's some big nodes going in the next year in April. It seems like there's some big nodes. It's been fascinating to watch again with astrology and the markets
Mm.
as
Yeah.
well. They're connecting and
Yeah. Always. Yeah.
some organicness. I'm seeing some organic. I'm seeing where it fits into the puzzle, but
Mm.
also being super savage. Me personally, just being like, no, that sucks. That sucks. That sucks. No, 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 no. Like just turning
Mm.
away all these parasitic attachments and
Yeah.
excitements and false idols again, just over and over and over. Like, sorry, sorry, sorry. No, 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 no. You don't get any of my energy because that's all they want. People are just trying to
Yeah.
stockpile because it's the only way people remember how to be. I feel
Mm.
stockpiling in all these different ways, but some people are getting inheritance. They don't know what to do with it because the system it's in is not even helping them, right? So he's got clients like that who are dealing with these, and that was my download, was that inheritance. It was the inheritance of the earth that was going to be handed back to the children of the earth, or the meek in the way in the Bible, as they did when. So I'm witnessing it happen in interesting ways. And there's
Mm.
also ways you can just attract abundance to yourself no matter what system you're using. But sometimes it gives people pure joy to engage with this system
Yeah.
that he's teaching about and this stuff, like genuine joy. People feel purpose. People know finally they're awakened. Like, this is what I was incarnated to be and do.
Mm.
Been engaging with those lovely people, and they all have the same interests as us, but they also have this extra piece of, oh, quantum financing.
Mm.
And Alexis
Mm.
didn't get the quantum financing, attachment, I think. And I'm just grateful to be in the presence of someone who did, because
Yeah.
to have your resources sorted out and
Absolutely.
have all your bases covered. But it's going to look different than I think most of those people, I think, are hoping it will, because again, there's a
Mm.
lot of hope that they're
Yeah.
going to win. It's almost like a gamble. There's a gambling mentality. Like, if I bet over here and if I put my chips over here and I could triple and quadruple. And some people have had that kind of luck, but really even making a passive income for yourself now is possible by investing in
Mm.
some of these, because they just make interest
Yeah.
all, and it's truly abundant. Like, it's creating more instead of, taking from you through using their systems and stuff. So that's an excellent shift in the
Mm.
energetic movement
Mm.
of materials in the digital realm, which we're all using so much. So that's great.
Mm.
But it
Mm.
is strange how
Mm.
painful it's been to watch it just like
Yeah.
clawing its way, like I've been watching these people suffer. Like,
Mm.
they're so dedicated and they watch every day. And like, I watch space weather and he's watching the other charts. We're
It would
comparing.
be so interesting to be in your household just
It
to watch.
is. And the birds are screaming and I'm like, it's a big day. And it's
Yeah.
funny. We need an astrologer living here with us, though. I
Yeah.
think that would be
Yeah. Can
exactly what
I'm
both
just
of us
watching
need.
the chat. Happy birthday to Jace. I think is it
Yeah,
tomorrow?
that'll be it's his birthday tomorrow, and he's going to be doing the free offering, because again, we are abundantly trying to share this information with whoever
Yeah.
it's activating, and take care of your
Can I
family.
can I just ask you, Jace, because I know you're on there. Can you please put the website? Like, I encourage you to put the website of where people can get the info about the
Yes,
class
here I
tomorrow.
can.
Thank you. Um, wow. Oh my goodness. We've just opened up all these other little portals of
I know.
cool conversation. um,
I know. There's
and
a lot to cover, and
there is,
there's a
and
lot of avenues of the
huh?
shift that have to happen. Some people are
Abs-
like, I'm agriculture Barbie and Ken, like, and
mm,
they're out there like
mm,
making food out of the desert floor. And I've watched that happen too the last couple of years.
mm,
Like, this is
yeah.
incredible. Like, there's so much skill awakening, and
Mm,
like we're well taken care of, I think.
I
And some of the
I couldn't
psychics
agree
worry because we got it ahead of time. Like, and we're like, where is this? Like, what do we do?
more.
But thankfully it's showing up. I feel better.
Mm. I totally agree with you. I think everyone has their skills, unique skills, gifts, and abilities. And I'm such an advocate for everyone. Just get out there and do it. Like, make a start,
Yeah.
make some sort of a start and then let it organically flow and grow and blossom. And, allow opening streams of abundance that can find you too.
Yes. And there's so many different,
Mm.
like, you have an
So,
abundance of bugs at night sometimes. Like, there is an abundance. You can just take credit for any abundance you see as the one being. You're like, wow, there's a lot of this is a nice tree. I did great over here. Like, love you. This is me as a tree and I'm happy. Like, that's also
yeah,
abundance. Like, truly
yeah,
knowing that you are connected and are everything. There's no lack. There's nothing that's not yours in a
absolutely.
way.
I,
So just
I'm just
attract what
want
you want
to
to play
off
with.
the off the topic, but kind of it has just popped into my head because you know how I don't know. This is how I correlate things. If something happens in my life, I look at that and go, interesting. What's that mean
Right.
as a micro macro?
Right.
So I got a letter in the mail, right?
Okay,
And
just
it was
tell me.
it was not one of those ones where I go, oh my god.
Oh.
It caught me off guard and it caught me by surprise. So I worked for a company 7 years ago as a teacher, as a trainer. There's a lot of looping. Anyway, there's a lot of timeline that went
Okay.
into liquidation because they were doing dodgy, fraudulent stuff. I was a subcontractor, so I didn't get paid my last two pays.
Oh,
Yeah, so I lost a bit of money there, and
yeah.
I had written that off as I will never see that money again. I got a letter saying that they're finalizing the liquidation process and that if I was to submit my evidence of what is outstanding, then I may get my money back by the end of this year. And so I've submitted. I mean, that I'm like you. I'm not wired that way. To do that was a real strain on, on me, but I was able to process that and I've submitted it. So I wait now. And that meeting was on Friday, yesterday, the final meeting to decide where all that money was going to go and who still is owed certain
Wow.
things. And I just kind of go based on, I was like, that was mine. I had let it go a
Yes.
long time ago. How interesting. And when I lost that job was when I had my first Kundalini awakening. So it's like this correlation of like, it's very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting.
The same
Um,
thing that happened to me after I had that in 2018. I literally got a check in the mail the next day of a tax return. And that tax return helped me and Jace as well, like, do all this stuff that summer. And it
mm,
was super helpful, that sort of packet. And what I was also getting today new, because a lot more people are talking about the strawman accounts and like how when we're born, we're like
yeah, yeah,
basically
yeah.
our weight
Mm-hmm,
in gold we're like sold for or something. But
mm-hmm,
that is still that energetic ball has is gathered somewhere and it
yeah.
has been managed somewhere. And that
Mm,
energetic ball, I think, is going to be passed back to its owners.
mm,
And that was what I was getting today. It was like the wealth is already there. You've already
mm.
earned it. You don't have to keep finding it. You don't have to keep making it. It's already there. And I think somehow in that process, that is going to come back to people.
I
And I'm
agree.
curious, like you said, it could just be through random checks, could be through
Mm.
random inheritance. Our universities could all write us and be like, sorry about all that. Here's your money back. Like, could
There's so
happen.
many ways, right? And even possibilities we can't even think of. So,
And
yeah.
it's not just even money either. Like,
Mm.
there's literally buildings and acres and there's so
Mm.
much abandoned
Yeah, yeah.
property,
Mm,
property and stuff that was often stolen and often taken. I mean, the colonization was an incredible heist of
mm,
so many places, and it seems like
mm.
I don't know. Again, I need an astrologer, but I feel like that there is some type
Yeah.
of very large cycle, like the Pluto return of the USA that we
Yeah.
just had a few months
Yeah.
ago. Everyone
Yeah.
was, oh my gosh, that was a big one
Mm,
for media creators, it seemed like, but they were very excited. But I feel like,
mm,
again, it has something to do with Rome, and it has
mm,
something to do with the dragon, which also describes China actually as well. They have their dragon sort of uh,
mm,
stuff. And again, now they're breaking open the inner earth in China and publicly showing people that there's these caves with Jurassic
mm.
prehistoric trees in them. And they're really exposing that stuff too. So it's
Mm,
like the
mm.
wealth is also being shown that is beneath our feet, as we're
Yeah.
being shown even more wealth than we were even aware of in our own home,
Mm,
in our birthright.
mm.
And
Yeah,
I
wow.
feel richer than ever. And it's
Oh,
only,
you've just filled me up, Alexis. Thank you. I feel like I hope everyone's feeling that as well. That energetics of abundance, feeling that within you and vibrating at that, and
I think,
as we attract like within us, it magnetizes towards us.
but,
I have
and
one.
also, I'll go on.
Oh, no, no, no.
I was going to say also what keeps coming through is that one Bible verse about a rich man getting into heaven is like fitting a camel through the head of a needle.
Mm,
And that was sort of like a big old quote that particular text mentions. So,
mm,
funny enough, it's somebody who thinks of themselves or holds a lot of resources and richness is actually
mm,
not getting it. And they
mm,
aren't accessing the kingdom or of heaven because they're seeing themselves as this big singular entity and so proud and prideful of that. But it's
mm,
like, you literally don't even need to be anything, but you can't escape what you are. You can't escape the abundance. So like you're the camel and the needle and the kingdom of heaven and like so it and David and Goliath and King Solomon also, a lot of that has been like coming into my,
mm,
and like I said, I just
mm,
open the Bible and look at it whenever it tells me to. Like it's just, oh, I'm looking
mm.
everywhere, and I've been getting a ton of that. So there's these big
Interesting.
big metaphors and these big
Yeah.
biblical shifts, and
Mm,
it's cool. So there's this crowd that's like, we've got it in the digital quantum realm because quantum means it's already happened.
mm,
So I'm like, it's already here. Again, the abundance is already here, but there is this weird time right now where you're getting to access it in a more intimate way, and
mm, mm,
it's fascinating. So if that is a call to someone where you're like, yeah, I want to have that kind of experience, it's available right now for your soul if you want.
yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
witnessing it with you. We all are. We
Mm,
all are. There's some
mm,
people who know a lot more though, and coming from it from a civilian perspective, coming all of this from a civilian perspective of like the surf class, like we didn't
mm,
get told we were special or like owed anything, like just work,
mm,
just make sure you get a good job. Like that was pretty much the only program for us. Like I didn't come from family with affluence or of control that I'm aware of right now.
mm,
And it's a totally different perspective shift.
mm,
It's like you have to also realize that you are responsible. You are a shepherd of
mm,
earth. Once you become an adult, you have to turn back around and start caring for the innocents so they can then successfully be the adults next. And when you're
mm,
old and your brain starts to like whatever get lazy, make sure that those ones know how to like also care about you and will look after you. And that's another big problem we're having is there's this big generational disconnect,
yeah,
which we're healing now. It's not going to be like that in the future, but
mm,
there's a lot of those souls holding a lot of dense energy, and that is a lot of generational wealth that's being locked up because, and, people are starving their own bloodlines
yeah,
from generational wealth right now because of their programming of how banking and all that works. And that's all going to melt. And I'm super excited for that release because if you're starving your own bloodline, you're starving yourself and you're really you're doing no good help, and you're not going to enjoy your afterlife, I'm pretty sure. So I would maybe just can reconsider that. The current life is the one to invest in, not save forever. Savings is, again, kind of an illusion. It's kind of silly. So
Well,
I'm taking all that away.
Alexis, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I hope I have one last question, but before
Okay.
I ask that, I hope that we get to do this more regularly because I think I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like we've just scratched the surface of where we could like dig deeper into, and yeah, I'd like to do that if
And you're
that.
gonna have fun with him on the show, I'm sure. And like, he's gonna give you what he can. And like myself, he can really talk and deliver those codes as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
us youngins are out here. We're scrappy. We're like, we want to do it. We're ready. Like, let us help you. Let us, because we're so
Mm,
proud and so grateful for anyone who's even ahead of
mm,
us, even just a little bit, because we've suffered ourselves. And then seeing
mm,
how long you guys have carried out and our
mm,
future generations, my parents, their parents, like,
mm, mm,
oh my
mm,
gosh, like, thank
mm,
goodness we have the energy to help right now. But I see how,
mm.
exhausted our
Yeah.
planet is. And
Yeah.
that's why I think we are turning to the kids, because their energy systems are intact and they are going to be able to actually be helpful and be
Yeah.
useful, be handy to us. Like I was saying, we should teach kids how to build and construct, because they literally just don't stop. They are
Mm,
energetic
mm,
balls. Like they just don't get tired. And we could be utilizing them in that time of their life in a playful but effective way, I feel like, more. And I'm also trying to talk about that more. But yeah, I know I talked about a ton of stuff. Thank you again for having me on. Everyone who
My last
came,
question.
so
Yeah, thank
happy.
you. My last question, and it may be irrelevant, but I don't know. I have to ask you this about your
Okay.
dragon. What color was your dragon?
Oh my gosh, it was like a few colors. Like I keep
Oh, was
seeing
it?
now different colors, but
Mhm.
at first it was black. The first
Okay.
image I got was a very dark black color, who was extremely fierce,
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. Like terrifying to anyone who knows they shouldn't have been messing around. You know what I mean? It was intense. And then I began seeing this more so
Mm-hmm.
white and like light bluish sort of
Mm-hmm.
wispy kind of air dragon, like Falcor sort of style kind of
Yeah.
vibe. Or they just recently did a movie called Raya, the Last Dragon, which kind of was along those realms as well, kind of vibe. So they've been
Mm-hmm.
instilling the dragon frequency into the movies and everything more so too. But yeah, the colors, and now I see greens and reds sometimes, and yellows and whites, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems to shift based off of what it needs to be, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I was just curious
Yeah.
because I'd seen a few different color dragons this week, and I was like,
Yeah. You're
that's
like, is
curious.
that Alexis's?
Is this?
I'm checking on you.
I think I saw a black and a white one, but there's been varying. I've had purple, blue. It
Yeah,
does.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Blue, yeah, big one. Lots of blues and purples lately.
Mm.
I'm excited. Upper chakra colors
Yeah.
coming in clear. The galactic
Mm,
vibe, very much locking on all of these star seeds and these new star systems, and star races are opening up and telling us about themselves again. And so now I just look on my sky app and see what stars are hanging out near our sun. Been doing that
mm,
a lot more lately, and just looking up that star and seeing any clues about awakening my own
mm,
star map inside my genetics and
mm,
so
mm.
on, being like, can I remember anything from this place? Like, is there anything extra?
Cool.
What's the connections? Who, maybe what are they connected to? And it's
Mm,
been a very effective practice.
I
I
love
would
that.
recommend playing with that more if you haven't done that yet.
Yeah, sure. Well, Alexis, I can't thank you enough. This has just been so divine. I've enjoyed every moment of listening to your wisdom and your sharing and your experiences. And I don't know, I feel I've got a lot from it. So I hope everyone has enjoyed watching it. Please, if you don't follow Alexis, please go to her channels on all the various platforms and keep up with her content. And look forward to having Jace on the show shortly. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. And
Mhm.
any final thoughts or comments about what we should be doing throughout the next month through June. Well, that's a very broad term, but sun specific.
I want to say, well, today is learn the days of the weeks and what planets they connect to is also very effective. Today is Venus Day for Friday, or I call it Friends Friday because,
Uh-huh.
the Venusian vibe, the friendly vibe, the beauty vibe, communal love vibe is pretty strong on Fridays. And the communion of our peoples, basically, is the broadest term I can say, is going to increase. And peoples who have not spoken out or have been public or filmed before, they're going to be stepping up and preparing to deliver more codes and new
Yeah.
faces that we haven't seen, but our mirrored selves, our soul family tribe, more of them are ready to talk to us because the beings they're connected to and the portals they live near are activating, and there's new systems turning on and new guardians are awakening. And so if you can collaborate with more people who are awakening and give them a chance to speak to the community, I think you should. And I'm going to do the same as well and get back into doing more interviews like yourself and
Yeah.
do
Yay.
more of that.
Mm.
And it is funny because I'm getting all these downloads on how to support the adults still, and
Mm.
then also make children's content, which I'm trying to integrate that in.
Mm.
Saturn is about to go retrograde. We just went Mercury is direct
Mm.
now, so we're going to be speaking clearly, but our whole structure of professionalism is going to be getting a review again. So if you're like feeling you need to do a project and you're still not sure why it's not going, just let Saturn give you that final review of what you want to let go of, what you no longer want to be doing with your time, because it's all about time and what
Mm.
you want to be doing with your time.
Mm.
And um like I would say just start following astrologers. Like if you don't follow astrologers yet, please start. Like
Any that you would recommend? I know I tap into the Leo King, every so
yeah,
often.
I also really like watching The Peace Dealer as a friend of mine. He also worked with the Leo King for a while, for a brief time, and he's very talented, very passionate man, working with, Archangel Michael energy for sure. His name's Michael too. I'm meeting a lot of Michaels.
Yeah.
Archangel Michael is extremely present in our whatever hologram, very much like sword and shield, getting that information, defending the innocent sort of vibe. That's one I would recommend. I have a couple others I'm watching, but I wouldn't recommend them because,
Okay.
you know,
Mm.
honestly, a lot of the astrologers I relate to are kind of like off the wall type of people, and they're very
Yeah.
expressive and emotional, and they don't censor their words, and it's not kid friendly like some of the videos
Yeah.
and people I watch, and they're very passionately like, but they're
Mm.
right, and it translates to me. And
Mm.
I've got a ton of Scorpio placements, so I just kind of like it kind of, that's kind of how I like it. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there is an astrologer for everyone. There's a flavor for
Absolutely.
everyone.
Mm.
And yeah, enjoy the solstice, have reverence for the
Yes.
solstice that's coming up. I made a
Mm.
calendar earlier this year for people, and that's what I called it, was like, we're revering this day. This is a very big deal.
Mm.
The the wheels are turning. There's going to be new things installed this year into our hologram that you have yet to show up, but we're all being
Mm.
told ahead of time really what's going to look like. So have no
Yeah.
fear. Always be optimistic. Be like, just try and flip everything for the silver lining in the best case scenario, because you literally can, with
Mm.
your psychology and with our collective consciousness too, like with your audience, like, hey, this is happening, but we could also think about it like this. And
Mm.
you've
Mm.
just created a whole new garden to keep
Absolutely.
the biodiversity of ideas out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I have to say about that, I guess.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'll be back again soon with Jace and hopefully creating more content as Alexis will too.
Yeah.
Until then, enjoy June and whatever it has to offer for you. And just sending much love to everyone. Hey.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor. And yeah, watch out for the sun because it's trying to talk to us. It's really, really wants true, honest relationship with every one of you. And our planet does too. So if you haven't figured that out yet, maybe make it a priority.
Yeah.
It would be worth your time, as you
Yeah.
know, and the moon's there as entertainment and as a support system now. It seems like so utilize your tools and your neighbors the best you can. It'll
Mm.
be worth it.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, everyone. And enjoy your weekend. Bye.
Indeed. Indeed. Until next time.